What's going on, guys? It's your boy Nate. We're going to jump into today's topic, and that is going to be on how do you find a good woman amidst all the bad ones, okay? So, I know a lot of guys out there, it's a crazy world. Dating, you're not really sure where to start. You don't really know, what to do. How do you find a good woman, right? You hear so many horror stories about bad women, good women, and you're just stuck, right? You don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. Everybody says to be a millionaire and drive a Lamborghini and have a nice watch, and it's just gonna fall in your lap. Well, guys, I'm gonna explain to you why that's complete BS and why you should focus on other things. And guys, more importantly, how you can focus on finding a good woman and stop settling for, well, I'm just gonna be nice and say bad women, all right? So, here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna dissect this thing from top to bottom. First off, I wanna talk about you as a man, okay? So before we can even find a good woman, we gotta figure out who we are as a man. So guys, there's gonna be a couple of things that I think are key when it comes to finding a good woman. One, you need to figure out what kind of man you are. And what I mean by that is, you gotta figure out who you are, guys, straight up. You got to figure out what you like, what your passion is, and what your purpose is. Without those things, you are going to be lost. You are going to be completely out there. You're going to be following the crowd. You're just going to be, guys, it's going to be painful, okay? What I see happen, a lot of guys, they will try to do what everybody else does, okay? So they will go to sports games and make their whole life about sports when they don't care too much about sports, right? They could be outdoors guys, but they feel like they got to be sports guys because that's what their friends do, okay? So I'm here to tell you that that's just not going to work, okay? Women are going to see through that insincerity, and other guys are going to see through that eventually. You're not going to appreciate it. It's just not going to be a good life, okay? So you got to know who you are as a person, guys. And this is also going to tie into the second point, which I think is super important. You have to be socializing with other dudes, okay? I know that sounds crazy. It sounds kind of out there because we're going to focus on finding good women, but guys, you have to surround yourself with good dudes. You have to find good men that you can be doing stuff with, right? You got to find guys that you can actually, the best way I know how to put this, guys, is you got to find people who are willing to be on your team, right? You got to find people who are genuinely wanting the best for you. And that's why I recommend, guys, I would much rather have one or two really good friends than have 50, 100 plus friends that don't really have my best interest in mind. A lot of people just want you to do what they do. A lot of people just want you to be doing the same miserable, just empty, useless things that they do. 100%. That's going to be the case for a majority of guys. It's just facts, guys, okay? This goes for women too, right? Women are going to end up finding out a lot of women just want you to be miserable with them, okay? Misery loves company. So find some good guys. Find some guys that have good ethics, good morals, who are chasing the same things you are, okay? There's this weird thing going around. Every guy's got to be chasing, multi-millionaire success, and they got to get a bunch of cars and a bunch of women and a bunch of like earthly things, guys. That's not going to give you true happiness, okay? It might be fun if you get it along the way, but that should not be your motivation. Money should not be your motivation. I'm going to throw that out there. Money is making a lot of guys miserable, all right? You can take that to the bank. Money is making a lot of guys miserable, and the reason is because money is fleeting. It is so temporary. It's so vapid, guys. It's literally a piece of paper. Yes, it does allow you to do things. It does allow you to do fun things in life, but guys, money is not going to bring you happiness. It's just not. It helps, don't get me wrong, but you got to find a bigger purpose, and the money will follow. You got to find what you are a expert at, what you enjoy, what gets you up and going in the morning, what just drives you, and that money will follow. And it might look different for everybody, but having that purpose, being on your mission, is going to bring you much more happiness and will give you, as much money as you really need. All right. So just want to hammer those points in, guys. The third point is going to be you have to be a good man. This does not mean being a nice guy. This does not mean being a pushover. This does not mean being agreeable, okay? You gotta be a good man. And what is a good man? A good man is someone who stands up for what he believes in, who stands up for the rights of others, who follows a upstanding, moral, righteous path, okay? And honestly, I believe that that's gonna be a guy who follows the Lord, who follows God, who knows the scriptures, who is seeking to build himself up in the scripture and is seeking to follow the commandments of God. I truly believe that. You're not gonna have any real purpose. You can be out there, guys. You can be accomplishing things. You can be doing what you want to do. You can be going full steam ahead. You can be driven. But guys, there are things in life that are going to happen, things you can't explain. There's going to be battles, guys, every day that you really just can't ignore. And so if you're spiritually empty, it's going to make all those other things just that much more miserable. So why not be in tune with your Creator, with your Father in heaven, and everything else is just going to fall into place. And that leads me to finding a good woman. Now, a good woman, guys, those three things I mentioned, she's going to be looking for those things. Now, you're probably wondering, why in the world would a woman care about what, I care about, myself, and that I know my purpose, and that I can socialize with other men, and that I have a good group of people, and that I am following these good paths in life. Well, guys, a good woman's going to want to align herself with that. Now, I know there's going to be some people who are going to say, well, Nate, why does it seem like all the good women go for bad guys? Well, I'll tell you why, gentlemen. I'll tell you why. A lot of times, good women are just as fallible. They're just as, in a sense, weak as men, okay? So let's talk about that for a second. Women are going to naturally go for guys that are masculine. So if a guy knows what he wants in life, if a guy knows like his purpose, if he knows like what he's good at and what he's going towards, he's got that mission, right? If he's going that direction, women love that, okay? In fact, I can't tell you how many times I've gone out on dates and women love to hear my end state, my mission, my goal that I'm going for in life. It doesn't really matter what I'm doing in life. Guys, here's a little tip as well. You can be dead broke and still date women, still date gorgeous women. You just gotta have a mission. You gotta be interesting. You gotta have a purpose. You gotta have something that you're going for. It's pretty straightforward. Socializing with other guys, obviously you're just gonna be better at socializing. It's gonna give you a boost to your masculine self. Kind of hard to put this into words, but it just shows that, hey, you can socialize, you can network with other people. Women are social creatures, so it just helps. Guys, you don't have to have that third one, okay? You don't have to be like a good man, but what happens is a lot of good women, they end up going, well, there's it's very hard to find men with those first two characteristics, right? A man who knows what he wants, who's on his purpose, who's on his mission, and who can socialize with other people. It's hard to find that. So a lot of women, they just settle. Now, here's what happens. A lot of those women aren't necessarily happy, and they end up regretting or trying to change that bad dude. But because he's masculine, because he knows what he's going for in life, they put up with it. That's why you have women who put up with guys who cheat on them. It's like they got this life, they got the lifestyle, they got everything, but this guy's just not a good guy, right? He's not going in that direction, so they settle for that, okay? The sad thing is, guys, a lot of women would rather settle for a guy that is on his purpose, that knows his mission, that can socialize with other people, that all ties in together and makes him a pretty successful guy. They're not going to be like being a good man, guys. Sometimes normally that falls by the wayside. I know a lot of you guys might think, well, I'm a good man and all this, but do you have the first two characteristics? Do you have a purpose? Do you have a mission? Can you socialize? Are you good with people? Like, those are important. Those are very, very important qualities to have. So it's just like a guy who finds a really pretty woman, right? A lot of guys, we're very fixated on looks, okay? And so we get so fixated on the looks that we let all these other things slide. Well, I'll make her into a good woman. I'll turn a hoe into a housewife, right? I will turn her into a good mother. I will pull her away from her crazy lifestyle, right? But she's hot and she treats me good, which, guys, if you don't know, that's temporary, okay? She's only going to treat you good for so long. Her true colors are going to show, right? Or you're just going to have a woman who you can never 100% trust, who is going to just not be a good fit for you long term. She's not going to be a good mother. She's not going to be a good long-term partner, right? That's just going to be the case. But guys, find a good woman. If you have all three of those, a woman would rather have that, okay? 100%. She would rather have all three, but she's going to settle basically for the guy who has it all together. But yeah, he's kind of a bad dude. And here's the thing, guys. If you want to find a good woman, you have to be a good man who's capable of potentially doing bad things. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean by doing evil, sinful things, right? I mean being dangerous if you need to be, being protective, right? Women love protection and they love security, right? Those two things, those are at the top of the list. Security, right? A lot of people talk about women love security and they talk about the finances. Like, yeah, that's a big deal. That's why you see a lot of women who just settle for dudes with money or, good careers. It's because that's security, but they'd rather have a dude who has the money and the security who can be a dangerous man. And where a lot of guys get wrong is they think they got to be one or the other, right? They think they got to be, they got to be the bad boy, they got to be dangerous, they got to be getting in fights, going out and doing all this crazy stuff. And that's why you have a lot of chicks who get with these drug dealer or guys who are just kind of living it up because they're confident. Like they're confident in their ability to protect themselves, right? You can, argue with me on that point, but they at least show that on the surface. A lot of you guys who think you're good, you're really just nice. You're really just nice. You let people steamroll over you. You let people talk to you, talk negatively to you, treat you bad in public. That doesn't mean you got to go, full swing and you got to go crazy and you got to, knock everybody out that doesn't agree with you or that calls you out or, you get the point here. But you got to be capable of at least showing that you protect yourself, that you stand up for yourself and even others, right? So helping out with your family or strangers or being courteous to people, right? There's a fine line, okay, between being nice and being good. A nice guy, for instance, if you're out on a date with a woman, if she gets the wrong order, nice guy is just going to be like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to say anything about it. But, you kind of leave it up to the girl to do it, to fix it, to say something about it. A good man, right? He's going to be like, oh man, that really sucks. Let me say something to the waiter or waitress when they come by and we'll get it fixed. And you're courteous and you're direct. You're like, hey, so sorry. Just want to let you know she got the wrong order. She actually got this. Can you please replace it? It's that simple, guys. But a lot of guys are scared of confrontation. A lot of guys have never been aggressive. They're not confident in themselves. They don't know how to stand up for themselves. And so you see what I'm talking about when it comes to these characteristics, right? So how do you differentiate? Let's say you're dating, right? Let's say you're talking to women, dating apps, in person, whatever, right? Preferably in person. I'm not a huge fan of dating apps, but let's say that you're just talking to women in general. Let's say you've run across some women that seem like, they could be a good fit for you, okay? Now here's where a lot of guys screw up. They go for the first woman that shows them attention, who's nice to them, right? Their standards as a man are so low that they're so enamored. They're just, wow, like, oh my goodness, this girl's talking to me. She likes me. This means that she's my soulmate, right? Maybe they haven't had a whole lot of female attention. Maybe they haven't had a whole lot of, girls talking to them. And so they just latch on to it. Guys, that's a recipe for disaster, okay? I'm not saying you can't find your soulmate. Maybe the first girl that's nice to you, you guys are going to live happily ever after. But try not to be so much in that Disney fairy tale mindset, okay? You want to be very, very intentional with who you're talking to, what you're talking about, right? Get to know them. Take them out for coffee, take them out for ice cream, take her out for frozen yogurt, right? Doesn't have to be anything crazy fancy. Go for a walk in the park, go for a walk around the boardwalk, walk around downtown. You know, something simple. You don't have to blow a bunch of money. Go to nice restaurants, okay? I know it's a given. It's very tempting, but save that for some of the later dates, right? You want to get to know this person. This person cannot talk to you. If this girl cannot talk to you, if you guys don't have any good conversations, guys, why are you wasting your time? You know how many times, guys, it happens? You go on a date with a girl, you guys just don't click, or you can tell from that first conversation that your values, what you believe in, doesn't align. Okay, cool. Didn't work out, on to the next one. Doesn't have to be this big crazy thing, right? Doesn't have to be this, dramatic falling out. Just doesn't work out, okay? You just move on, is what it is. Also, what I see a lot of guys do is they end up jumping into bed really fast with women, okay? Like really fast. Okay, I get it. This woman might be into you, you might be into her, she might look the part, right? She might just be, the complete package. But guys, as people, okay, I'm not saying that she's necessarily a bad person, but as people, we're gonna put on our best front, okay? Think of dating like a business transaction, sort of like think of it like you're interviewing, right? If you cannot talk to this person and get along with this person, if you cannot be on the same page, if you know that something's off, right? Sleeping with someone is not going to make it better. And what I see a lot of guys do is they're just so, I don't even want to say desperate. Their only mission is to get into that girl's pants, into the bed, to have sex, right? A lot of people are just like, yeah, screw it. We'll just have sex. We'll just, first date, second date, third date, doesn't matter, right? There could be that mutual attraction. But guys, why are you wasting your time? Why are you doing that, right? I see so many guys complaining about how these women are ran through, and it's like you're contributing to the problem, okay? Or I hear these guys saying, well, when I have a family, my daughter this, or she's not going to be able to do this or that, and it's like, so why are you doing it, dude? And then they justify, well, she's this or she's that, and it's like, maybe, yeah, maybe she has that track record, but guys, it's really hard to believe, but a lot of women, they're not necessarily like these OF girls that you see on these podcasts and that you see online and stuff. They're not as out there as you think. It's like, yeah, there are going to be some women who are, but if you've noticed, if you've dated or you actually start to pay attention, a lot of even those girls, guys, they're still trying to find a good guy, right? A lot of these women, they've let their feelings take over, right? They made that decision to just hop into bed, right? To feel wanted, to feel needed, right? And then they just keep going from guy to guy to guy because they're trying to find that connection, because that's like the only way they think they can find it. But it all started somewhere, right? It all started somewhere. I'm not saying that, guys are the 100% problem with that. I'm just saying, there is two sides to it. And what I see is this weird flip that a lot of guys are, it's like we're flipping, like we said women were the problem, and now, or women, we're saying that we were the problem, and now men are just doing that right back at them. It's like, are we feminists now, guys? Or are we going to be men, take accountability, take responsibility, and realize that maybe, yes, we contributed to some of this. Maybe it takes two to tango, right? So just some food for thought there, guys. But I see a lot of guys make that mistake. They jump into bed too fast. They try to be too intimate too fast, right? They let the feelings take over. They think the physical is going to make up for everything else. A lot of guys believe the lie that you got to, get in bed with a woman as soon as you can. You got to, get that connection. But it's like, guys, look, if a woman's going to be that open and forward with you that soon, it's probably a sign that she's done that with other dudes. You're probably not that special. Okay. Now, on the flip side, you don't want to be with a woman who doesn't have any sort of attraction to you either. All right. You don't want to be dating a girl, even a good woman, who doesn't have any attraction. You should be able to tell. Okay. There should be that mutual sort of like tension. You know, some people call it the sexual tension, right? There should be that you know, you'll know the eyes that she'll give you, wanting to be close to you, right? That doesn't mean you use it, doesn't mean you jump on it, right? It doesn't mean like that you go for it. It just means like, okay, there needs to be that mutual attraction. I think a lot of guys, we try to be so logical, we try to be so polarizing, that a lot of us are starting to go, well, you know, all the really attractive women are just complete, you know, whatever, complete hoes, and so I'm just gonna find like an ugly woman. It's like, nah, because even if you do get with the ugly woman, you're still, she could have a lot of good qualities, guys, but the fact is, like, you're going to be, if you're not attracted to her, like genuinely not physically attracted to her, you're gonna want to step out in your marriage. Okay, that's just gonna hurt her. It's gonna hurt you. Like, why even do that? It's possible to find a good woman who is attractive, that you're attracted to, that's attracted to you. Okay, but the problem is a lot of people are just impatient, right? So when you're trying to find a good woman, right, when you're going down this path, instead of just going for women in general, guys, you want to find a woman who is going to be religious of some sort, right? And more so than religious, I would say she respects God, right? She respects God's word. She respects what the Bible says. She respects Jesus, right? If you find a woman who like genuinely follows Jesus, guys, that's going to be like more than half the battle right there. Okay, like everything else is normally going to fall into place. Now, here's where I really want to dive into this, because up to this point you might have been like, all right, Nate, I've heard this all before, you know, maybe I heard a couple good things, but like, you know, how do I really find a good woman? I know you mentioned a woman who goes to church or might, you know, love Jesus, but like, what does that look like? How do I know? Glad you asked. So, guys, when you're finding a good woman, I've dated women in the past, guys, who on Saturday night were one way, but then went to church on Sunday. All right. Now, as much as you want to think, oh man, like this is the one, like, man, this is great, she goes to church and all this. Guys, the fact is, if you're still living a certain lifestyle, again, don't change her. She don't want to be saved, don't save her, okay? That's between her and God. So you're not going to be God, you're not going to save her, okay? Stop thinking that you can do that. It doesn't work. So a good woman, guys, one, she's not going to live a lifestyle, okay? Look at the actions. A lot of guys get stuck on the words. If a woman's attracted to you guys, if she likes you, like let's say you guys go out on a date, women can normally tell if they like you, I would say quicker than you like them most of the time. Women are going to figure it out really quickly. In fact, if a woman says yes to going out on a date with you in the first place, there's a pretty good chance that there's like something there, okay? Because women are very used to rejecting guys now, very used to just saying no, or I have a boyfriend or whatever. So the fact that you can go out, that says a big deal. Now, if you led with money and you were like begging and all that, then it's probably not a good sign. But let's just say this happened organically, right? Don't get caught up in the words. Do not get caught up in what she says, okay? She might tell you this. She might be a genuinely good woman, guys. I'm not saying that you shouldn't like listen to what she says. Definitely listen. Ask questions, get to know her as a person. But don't just take it at face value, okay? This goes for women too. If you're a woman watching this, don't just take words at face value. You know, they say women get really wrapped up in a guy's words. Men get wrapped up in women's words very, very easily, okay? So give it some time, guys. Figure out who she is. Like, ask good questions. Like, ask her, like, hey, you know, did you grow up going to church? What do you think about God? What do you think about the Bible, right? What do you think about this? You don't have to be pointed. You don't have to be like, so, are you saved? So, you going to hell? Like, you don't have to be like that. You can just talk to her, right? I think what might help is if you guys talk to women like people, Stop thinking of them as like, oh my God, women. I'm talking to a woman. I'm dating a woman. Talk to them like people. Like, treat them like people. Yes, they're women, but they're people. So people like to talk. Women really like to talk. They like to talk about themselves. So if you just ask questions and you talk, guys, that's like most of it, right? If you can be interesting, if you can be kind of funny, you can just kind of let loose, it's whatever. So stop thinking of it like, oh my gosh, I'm on a date with a woman and she's gonna be my wife and have my kids. Get that out of your mind, okay? So anyway, listen to what she says, listen to what she does, right? So like if she's like, yeah, you know, this has kind of become a meme, but the girls that are like, yeah, I don't really go out much anymore. Hey guys, I believe anybody can change. I truly do. People change all the time. I truly do. I believe that Jesus can change a heart. I believe that he can change people 100%. But the words need to match the actions. The actions should be the forefront, okay? If she's like, yeah, but you know, every once in a while, I still like to go out and like party and get drunk and still like to, just on my birthday or like just like, it's called trickle truth, right? They start to talk a little and then it just kind of opens up. If you aren't super combative, because what a lot of times happens, guys, is you'd start talking to these women and then you start to like show these like facial things, like you start to look at them a certain way, or you maybe start to clap back and be like, wait, so you go out and party? They're gonna pick up on that really fast and they're just gonna like completely shut down. They're not gonna bring it up. You're not gonna know like what kind of person they are. You're gonna have to wait longer to figure out, this is what she does. Oh, I actually figured out, like she goes out every other Saturday with her friends at 10 o'clock to this bar or this area. Don't make it harder on yourself, okay? Just listen to them. Now, let's say you're talking to her, let's say you've been on a date, everything seemed great, she seems like she's got a good background, right? Nothing crazy. And the reason I'm harping on this, guys, is because a lot of women now are starting to pick up that a lot of dudes want traditional, conservative, like religious, God-fearing women. So they're going to be picking up on that. It's going to be hard, really hard, to not be your genuine self out on a date. That's why I recommend not like being pointed with questions. Just let it loose. Just be cool, right? Like you got to have this like no there's a word for it, it'll come to me here in a second, but you got to have this kind of hands-off approach. You got to have this like, it is what it is, I'm just talking to someone, I'm just figuring out who they are. You can date somebody for like a date or two, right? You can go out with them, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you can still say you had a good time and good conversation. Guys, it's okay. It doesn't have to be this big like negative experience, but women are going to tell you one thing, guys, just straight up. But let's say everything checks out. Let's say you had a good conversation, no red flags, right? She's not bringing up things like, yeah, I believe it's okay to have abortions. Okay, well, to me, personally, that's a red flag because, well, I'm a family guy and I want to have a family. I want to have a lot of kids. I want to have a religious, I keep saying religious, but I want to have a God-fearing family, right? A family that actually follows the scripture and, lives out the will of God. I want to have a woman who believes in that in my life because that's just not what I believe in. Okay. I don't have to get super political with it, but that's just not what I want. Plus, I don't want to ever have that in the back of my mind, like, oh, she thinks abortion's okay. So maybe one time like she conceived and like she got rid of it and I never knew. So I can't mentally like be with that. So let's say everything checks out, right? No red flags, nothing stands out, everything's cool, right? I got this little gnat flying around, it's driving me nuts. Do you guys have a lot of like fruit flies flying around? I don't know what it is, man. I try to kill them all. I try to put little traps and they just keep flying around. It keeps flying on my little light here. I want to kill it, but anyway, that was my ADD, my non-diagnosed. But like really, really listen to what she says. And if it all checks out, guys, the next step here should be, one, you should keep going on dates. You should get to know her, right? But like get to know her around people, okay? So this means like maybe, a few dates in, right? You go to the park, maybe you go to a, simple little restaurant, doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to shell out a bunch of money. If you're going to church, right, or she goes to church, maybe trying out her church or something, see how she is around people. See how she treats strangers. See how she treats her family. See how she treats other people she knows, her girlfriends, other guys, right? You're going to be able to pick up on some things really quickly. If she's really flirty with like a bunch of dudes, probably a red flag. If she's really friendly with maybe, like, again, it's all going to be case dependent, but she's really friendly with people that she's known for a long time at her church, that can mean another thing, okay? So it doesn't always have to be this, oh my gosh, yeah, red flag, she's friendly to some dude, right? You can pick up on some things, all right? But is she nice, right? Is she cordial? Is she, you know, just a good person, right? And then what you really want to dig into, guys, by this point, you should already know this, but you really want to start digging into, okay, what do you look at? Like, what are your outlooks on family? What are your outlooks on career? What are your outlooks on God? Now, again, you've probably already covered these things, but you really want to like get in to like the career, the family, and the outlook on God, because this will tell you a few things, all right? She might have passed all of the, you might have been on a few dates, things might have gone great, no red flags, everything's cool. But let's say you really haven't talked too much about those things, which again, you probably have, but you probably need to talk a little bit deeper and just reconfirm, right? Because a lot of times we can say one thing and then a week or two or a couple months later, turn around and say something different, right? That's when you go, you know, okay, like in your head, you're like, all right, we need to start maybe taking this a little bit more seriously. That's when you really narrow it down and you go, okay, with the family, right? What do you want, right? So when it comes to family, for instance, like me, I want like a ton of kids. Will I realistically have a ton of kids? Maybe not, right? But in my head I would. So I would want to be with a woman who wants a ton of kids. If a woman told me she just wants like 1 or 2 kids, that's gonna make me go, okay, that's, you know, maybe we can talk about that, see if she's willing to maybe change her mind. But if she's like pretty stuck on that, then we're probably not gonna be a good fit. When it comes to family too, guys, what do those roles look like? You really gotta dig into this, okay? What does that look like? Are you going to, there it is again. What does that look like? Are you going to be in a position where you can be a masculine man, or are you gonna have a wife, you know, potential future wife, who's going to constantly like, you know, rail against you, constantly, you know, want to like have that power struggle? Because guys, what's happening, a lot of guys are figuring out like, yeah, I thought this woman was submissive and all that, but once we got married, it was like, oh my gosh, she was completely different. And I think that's because they failed to ask the questions they asked. They forgot to do the hard stuff. Like, hey, what do you think about, like, if we got into this situation, like at the end of the day, who's going to make the decision? And if she's like, well, you know, if I don't like it, then I'm going to be like really, really upset. And she doesn't say like, oh yeah, you know, there's a hard decision. Once it comes down to it, we'll talk about it, we'll communicate. If she's not like, yeah, but I'll leave that up to my husband to make that final decision because I trust him. If it's anything but that, guys, probably gonna have your work cut out for you. I'm just gonna put it straight up. A lot of women, guys, and this is why a lot of men are confused, because they hear to find a good woman, they hear to find a God-fearing woman. There's this ideology that's crept in to the church, I believe, as a whole. You see it on social media, you see it kind of everywhere now, where like men and women are equal in everything. The problem is, once it comes down to reality, it ends up being the woman's like, she's got a little bit more power and a little bit more sway than the man. And that's not, from what the Bible says, correct, right? The man's the head, he's the leader, right? He's supposed to be submitting himself to God. And if the woman's not willing to follow that lead, there could be a lot of marital problems because of that, okay? Man's gonna feel very emasculated and just out of place. You could even have a good couple who they really try to make this, it's called like egalitarianism, work. And once they actually start going and they're married and stuff, it actually ends up having a lot more problems, especially for the guy, because he's not doing what he needs to do. And what ends up happening is he ends up passing off a lot of that final say or the hard stuff to his wife, and it doesn't work. And so if she's not willing to follow your lead, right? But that also means, guys, that you got to be an understanding, loving man. That doesn't mean you got to be a teddy bear all the time. That doesn't mean you got to be weak. That doesn't mean you got to be lazy, right? I see a lot of guys, they get married or into a serious relationship and they just lose all their masculinity. They stop going to the gym. They stop doing anything with the guys. They stop pursuing their dreams and passions. It just becomes this life of like cozy, soft comfort. And then they wonder why their girlfriends, wives aren't attracted to them, aren't pursuing them, aren't treating them the same way, right? Because you're not masculine anymore. What do you think is going to happen? Now, when you get married, obviously, there's going to be some give and take. I'm not the marriage expert, right? But there's going to be some give and take, right? You got to be a team. You got to be a team. As a man, you got to listen. And a good woman's going to want to find a guy who listens to her. That doesn't mean you got to do what she says, right? You just got to listen. You got to at least let her be heard. That's like 90+% of the communication you can do with women, guys, is just make them feel heard. If you can make a woman feel heard, like on a date, you're probably going to have another date. That doesn't mean you can't talk about yourself. That doesn't mean you can't talk about your life and what you think. But if she feels heard, then that's like so big to women, guys. So big, right? They just want to be heard. So that's the family thing. That's a little bit about that. All right. So what about when it comes to career, right? This is a big one. Career, oh my gosh, this is probably bigger now than it's ever been. I get it, guys. Money's crazy. Money's kind of tight these days. It's not what it used to be. Is she a career woman? Is she a career-minded woman? Or is she willing to take a step back if you guys have kids, right? If she is hell-bent on a career, right? If she's hell-bent on pursuing a certain career and she doesn't really talk about kids or how that weaves into it, you got to bring that stuff up. You have to, right? Sometimes as a man, you got to take charge. A lot of men just kind of sit back and wait for things to be brought up or things to be talked about. You have to take charge. You have to bring some stuff up, right? Sometimes women are just going to feel kind of by bringing this up. So you got to be the man, take charge, bring it up. What's it going to look like? Okay, if you have kids, are you guys going to put them in daycare? You going to leave them with a family member? Is she going to stay home and raise them? Do you as a man have enough money to support your kids, your wife, your household, and all those things? These are questions you should be asking yourself, okay? If you can't treat her, if you can't give her a better or is equal of a life that her current father or her current, situation can, well, you should probably get back to the drawing board. You should probably work on yourself a little bit, right? Now, if she happens to come from a really well-off family and maybe makes a lot of money, well, that might be a bonus, right? That just might be what it is. If she's got a career already, that just might be a nice bonus, okay? But you as a man, even if you're not necessarily making more, you still need to be in a position where you are pursuing your passion like 100%, where you are leveling up, right? Where you are going for what you want, where you're starting that side business, you're starting that YouTube channel, that blog, right? You are working towards something. You are leveling up that ladder, that's going to be key, right? Because I've heard there's a lot of issues that can come from guys who make significantly less than their wife, okay? Again, got to be careful with that because, it's a competitive world out there. And if a woman knows that she's bringing a lot more to the table than you are, barring any sort of, disability or anything crazy, guys, again, that attraction is going to kind of wane. All right. She might not leave you. She might not, think you're disgusting, but it's going to wane a little bit. It's just a fact, right? Just like if the woman that you love, let's say she starts putting on a lot of pounds and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna divorce you, but we should probably think about health, right? We should probably think about being healthy. We should probably think about taking care of ourselves. Things like that. So what does career look like? Is career more important than children? That's pretty much what it is. Me personally, again, guys, this goes back to knowing who you are and what you want. I'm a guy, I want to have a family. If I have kids, personally, I would want to have a wife who wants to stay home, homeschool them, nurture them, be a stay-at-home mom. I want to provide for them. I want to give my family everything that they want and need, right? That's just what I want to do. I think it's more important than to make a little bit extra money. It's better to go without a little bit for the sake of the kids, right? For the sake of their livelihood, for growing them up. Last thing, guys, this doesn't mean last is importance, but just to kind of round this video off, a good woman, guys, again, she's going to have the fear of the Lord in her heart. And she could be, I would recommend, guys, if you haven't, read, even if you're not super religious, right? You can be, you could not want anything to do with religion, but if you want to look at the wisest man of all time, right? Besides Jesus, of course. If you want to look at the wisest man of all times, King Solomon, which was King David's son, was the wisest man of all time. And there's a book in the Bible called Proverbs, Proverbs 31. A lot of atheists, a lot of people who don't really look at religion seriously still really like Proverbs because it's filled with a bunch of wisdom. Proverbs 31 talks about what a good woman and a good man looks like. Primarily the woman, but Proverbs 31 is going to tell you, it's going to show you exactly what is the good characteristics and virtues of a good woman, right? And she fears the Lord. And one of the first qualities is her husband trusts in her, safely trusts in her. And that's a problem with so many guys today. They feel like they just can't trust. Like, well, eventually she's going to step out or whatever. But if she has a fear of the Lord, guys, that instance, if she has a true fear of the Lord, guys, she's gonna be so rooted in the fear of God, right? She's gonna respect God so much that she's not going to want to step out on you. She's not going to want to do you harm. She's gonna respect God, right? And if she has a father or a good father figure in her life, hopefully, that's another big thing to look at. If she respects God, everything's going to flow from that. All right. Now, we're people, we're human, and we're going to mess up. She's not going to be perfect, right? But I truly believe if she's a good woman, that she will long to do the right thing by God. That will be more important to her than even you. And that's why she'll want to find a good man. She wants all three, right? We talked about that at the beginning. She wants a man that has the complete package, that she can really look up to and respect. That she can really go, man, this is the man that God led into my life. This is the man that God wanted me to have. This is the man that I want, my kids with. This is the man that is going to protect me, who's going to do the right thing by me, guys. And I know there's still gonna be some people that say, yeah, but I just hear about these good women in church who end up being one way. But guys, I promise you, if you talk to them, if you figure out who they are, what they do, you will start to hear things. You will pick up on their past. You'll pick up on how they deal with things now. You'll pick up a lot of things, guys. And I'm even going to go so far as to say this, and I'll close with this. We oftentimes we get caught up on women being virgins or body counts and all this stuff. People get caught up on the science. They get caught up on the statistics, right? And I get it. The science definitely says something about it. Don't get me wrong. Every guy, yes, wants a virgin. I get it, okay? That being said, is every God-fearing man going to end up marrying, being with? Is the woman that God brings to him, is it always going to be a virgin? I'm not God. I can't make any promises, but I'd be willing to bet, guys, that the answer is no. And so You have to look at the character. You have to look at that fear. You have to look at the track record. Okay. You got to look at the sincerity of heart. You got to look at all these factors. You got to take it all into consideration, guys. There have been guys who have been married to a virgin, and that woman ends up stepping out on him, ends up cheating, right? It happens. Okay. Sometimes guys get so caught up on the physical, right? They get so caught up on that. Yeah, she might have been a virgin. Maybe she was raised in a religious household, but she didn't have that fear of God in her heart. She didn't really have that true, fear or respect of God, whatever you want to call it. And she stepped out, right? We're human. I'm not making excuses, right? I understand that a lot of guys feel like, it's a lot worse for a woman to step out. And in a lot of ways, I agree with that, right? But adultery is still adultery. Stepping out on husband or wife, it's the same thing, right? You can say whatever you want all day about that. I don't care, okay? But the point is, if she has devoted her heart, her life, her whole being, everything to Christ, to God, if she is given over to God, because you either serve God, right, or you serve the father of lies, which is the devil. You serve Satan. You serve that. Some people think you can serve yourself. You're not. If you're serving yourself, you're serving the devil, which wants to make you think that you're serving yourself. Because when you serve yourself, you're just sinning and you're just making things worse and you're going down a road of destruction, and that's exactly what the devil wants. So if you're not serving Christ and God, guess what? You're serving someone else. So guys, if she has the fear of God, if she respects God, if she clicks with everything that you want, right? If you truly believe after a certain amount of time, there's no magic number, but if you truly pray about it, you truly pursue it, if you're doing everything you need to do, if you're a competent, successful guy, right? You don't have to be mega successful, but if you have your stuff together and you are constantly trying to improve as a man and ask God to strengthen you, refine you, and mold you into that man, I guarantee you, if that desire is in your heart to find a godly woman, he's going to bring her to you. He's going to bring you to her, and it will click, guys. But I hope this video was helpful. I hope it helps you kind of figure out some things and sift through a lot of the BS out there. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know below. Drop the like, subscribe, and I'll be back at you with the next one.